Welcome back to AgriTalk in Phoenix, Arizona at the National Ethanol Conference. The Renewable Fuels Association celebrating its 30th anniversary. Chuck Woodside is with us, the current chair of the Renewable Fuels Association. Chuck, thank you for joining us. Wow, 30 years, a lot has happened to this industry, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of peaks and valleys, crossroads and critical times. We're at another one right now, but you can look back, and it was interesting. I was watching the presentation this morning, and a lot of the things I'd almost forgotten about over the 30 years, victories along the way that at the time were absolutely critical for the industry. So it's just like you just keep plugging along. There's always new challenges, but wow, you've come a long way.
We really have, and a lot of it is because of the active participation of our members. We continue to be the largest ethanol advocacy group that's out there, and it truly are a producer organized group, and so we have a lot of involvement of our members, and that's a key part of what we've been able to get done.
Our listeners often hear us talk about the Renewable Fuels Association. We talk with Bob Dineen quite often. Who makes up the RFA?
Well, we're definitely a producer organization, but we are fortunate to have a strong staff, not only legislatively, but from a technical and research perspective, that really is able to come in and support the industry. And so while the legislative efforts are a large part of it, we certainly are known for our technical and research work as well.
Bob Dineen has laid it out very well. This is a critical time. It's a challenging time to move forward. And we're seeing some serious challenges right now in Washington, D.C. that affects the future of this industry.
It is a really difficult time, and we will certainly have, as I put it in my remarks this morning, could be one of the most tumultuous years that we've ever had. Certainly with the fiscal considerations that are there, the fact that the volumetric excise tax credit is expiring at the end of the year, we know we're going to need to reform that, and so we're going to continue to work with our allies in Capitol to look at that reform.
That's the thing. The industry is willing to adapt and reform, but there are those, even in Congress, that would just like to pull the plug completely.
Well, that's right. I think what our perspective is that we need to take a look at all of our energy tax and look at the reform, not just in the biofuels area and ethanol specifically, but we need to look at some of the oil credits as well. And I think that if we address those uniformly, that it'll be successful.
Yeah. The president even mentioned cutting subsidies to the oil industry in his State of the Union speech, but so far it's not getting much traction in Congress, it seems.
Well, I think certainly it was disappointing to see the action that Congress took the other night about the implementation of E15 and funding EPA to be able to do that. But any expenditure is going to get a lot of attention in Washington this year, and so as we go through that, it'll be important to work with those.
It is very difficult to try to make those judgment calls of what's an expenditure but really is also an income producer. What are the longer term benefits? And it's easy to say, well, okay, that costs money, let's just cut it out, and without ever looking at the rest of that scenario.
Well, that's exactly right. If you look at it today, the volumetric excise tax credit it's probably one of the most misunderstood tax credits, and the fact that it doesn't go to the producer, it really goes to the part of the industry where it needs it the most. At the moment, that tax credit is going to the pump and benefiting the consumer for the use of biofuels. But in Nebraska, which is the state where our plant is located, our state has seen the benefits of a very developed and biofuels industry, and our economy is strong there, and a lot of that is attributed to the work that's been done over the last 4 years in developing the ethanol industry. We're, in a lot of respects, a relatively new industry. We've been subsidizing the oil industry for 70 years, so I think in comparison, we're a very new industry, but yet there's a lot of innovation and a lot of entrepreneurialism that's going on inside of it.
How is the ethanol industry doing right now, especially with the high corn prices?
The margins have certainly compressed over the last 30 days, and a lot of apprehension as to what we can expect to see over the summer months. But we still anticipate strong ethanol demand, and so we'll need to look forward to a large crop this fall again.
When you look at what's being proposed in Congress right now, some would not only want to take away the ethanol tax incentive, but would also cut funding for anything that would help establish infrastructure like blender pumps. There's also the move to keep EPA from allowing E15 into the marketplace. I mean, if all of those took place, that would be quite a blow to the industry.
Well, I think that's a really important piece, is that as we look towards reforming VTEC, that market access and building of that infrastructure has got to be a big piece of it, because we need access to the market in order to be able to have less reliance on the excise tax credit. So certainly we need to make sure that infrastructure, that market access is there.
The Renewable Fuels Association, 30 years, that's quite a history when you think back 1981, how far much progress has been made. I mean, as Bob Nanine said, the reason we're facing some of these challenges is because the industry has grown to the point it has.
Well, that's exactly right. We today represent 10% of the United States fuel supply, and are replacing a tremendous amount of imported oil as we do that. As we continue to grow, we continue to look for new markets, and I think it's that part that concerns our competitors and those people that would like the naysayers to the ethanol industry. I think one of the statistics that Bob used this morning, in that it took 16 years to produce 13 billion gallons of ethanol, and today we produce that in 1 year. And I think that is truly significant. It certainly is a testament to the work of the Renewable Fuels Association, as well as our Capitol Hill supporters as well.
You touched on something. I think we need to do a better job of getting this message out in front of the public. And I even have people ask me, well, does ethanol really make a difference in how much oil we buy from other countries? I think we need that displacement figure you just mentioned is one we need to get out.
Yeah, I think I can't remember whether it was in Grassley's remarks or whether Bob had said it, but in the fact that the amount of ethanol that we have produced is displacing the equivalent amount of oil that we import from Venezuela. And so as we look at generating that economic development, that energy independence, we're able to lessen our dependency on people that would like to see our demise.
And that's what's frustrating, is that gets overlooked. And if you want to talk about building our economy, and that's what all this is about, you can't build a strong economy if you're going to be reliant on other countries for your energy.
No, that's right. And you can't eliminate the indirect charges that come with the use of oil, of fossil fuels, and the dependence that we have on that, whether it's protection in the Persian Gulf. You look at what's going on today in the oil markets. You've got crude oil up over $3 because of what we're seeing in Libya. Now, it may not be long before ethanol is blamed for that. I don't know, as we certainly have seen that with respect to the Egypt piece. But I think it just reinforces the importance that there should be on our energy independence.
I like Rick Tolman's line from National Corn Growers. He said, hey, instead of them blaming us for unrest around the world, let's take credit. If ethanol can bring democracy to countries, that's a good thing.
That's exactly right.
Chuck, congratulations on 30 years for the Renewable Fuels Association, and best of luck going forward.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here.
That's Chuck Woodside, the chair of the Renewable Fuels Association. With that, we'll wrap up today's coverage of the National Ethanol Conference here in Phoenix, Arizona, but we will be back here again tomorrow. Much more to talk about. A very challenging time for the ethanol industry, and especially with all the pressure to cut spending and things like that. How will the ethanol industry fare? We'll talk more about it tomorrow. Hope you'll join us right here on AgriTalk, the voice of rural America.